بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة والتسليم على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم المصطفى الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, how is everyone? So Alhamdulillah, it looks like I have probably about a quick 30 minutes, and then everyone's going to be looking for their iftar, mashallah. So inshallah, what I wanted to talk about very quickly today was, I want to talk about, Ramadan is all about holding the bodily appetites still so that your spirituality can grow, because they don't grow both at the same time. When the nafs are engaged, the spirit is standing still. And you have to make the bodily appetite stand still to allow the spirit to grow. So this is all about learning. This is about fulfilling who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be. Ramadan, right? Ramadan is all about becoming who we're supposed to become. It's a training ground for becoming who we are supposed to become. But I'm going to take a different track. All right. I'm going to go around the corner a little bit, and then come back around. So mashallah, the youth, mashallah, shabab, the young people are here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about using this opportunity to transition, thinking about transitioning from adolescence into adulthood. All right? Adolescence into adulthood. But first, I want to ask you, how do you know that a boy has become a man or a girl has become a woman, besides the obvious biological factors? How do you know? How do you know? How can you tell psychologically or emotionally or spiritually that a person is ready to carry out the responsibilities of adulthood? How would you know? That's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. All right? A little bit. So just try to remember this word, fatuwa. Let me hear you say it. Fatuwa. Fatuwa. One more time to the young guy in the back there. Fatuwa. Fatuwa. All right? When you have responsibility, when you have authority, when you have influence, when you have rights that you have to discharge, and you do it with generosity, you do it without the sense of selfishness. This is called chivalry. In Arabic, futuwa. All right? Futuwa. So outwardly, to the people, to the creation of Allah, you're known as being generous. But in actuality, your heart is oriented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right? So there's two things happening. You're doing something outwardly, but you're trying to achieve something with Allah inwardly. All right? And when you begin to see these signs manifest on the youth, you know that they have truly entered into the state of adulthood. Don't misunderstand. A person can be 40 years old and still be a boy or a girl at 40 years old. So traditionally, our scholars implemented this rites of passage, right? They would implement this. They would teach this to the youth, explain that to the youth that this is how you have to be. If you're going to be an adult, you're transitioning. Okay? You're transitioning. All right? So first and foremost, fatuwa is to follow that superior moral code of the anbiya, the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. and the awliya, those intimate friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the salihin, those people who they live a righteous life. They are consistently righteous. All right? It is also heroic generosity without measure. You see, when children are young, everything is about them. No, this is mine. I want it my way. I have to have it the way I want it. An adult should not be like that. So how you know that the person is transitioning from being a boy or a girl into a man or a woman is that they're able to prefer the other person. It's preference for the other. And that's why I'm calling it heroic generosity. And I'm going to give you some examples, so it's not just theoretical. Give you some examples. All right? It is that you are just with others without seeking justice from them. Right? In other words, you give people their rights, but you don't make them give them your rights. This is fatwa. Okay? It is that you respond to cruelty. We all have brothers and sisters and people in our family who are, sometimes they're hard and harsh and they're cruel to us, but you respond with kindness. That's fatwa. These are the signs that have to manifest on a young person, and you begin to know, okay, they're transitioning into adulthood. All right? It's also that you don't constantly seek out the faults of people, looking at people's faults and trying to pick them apart and blaming them and criticizing and reminding them of all of their faults. That's the play of children. That's not how adults are supposed to be. Okay? But inwardly, the real affair is to break the idols of the self. Because the nafs, the commanding self, all it wants is to carry out its desires. And so you begin, as you move into adulthood, you have to break that. Oh, I just want to continue to watch TV. I want to play my video games. I want to go do what I want to go do. I want to be, that's for children. That's not the sign of an adult. Children do that. All right? So fatwa is to inwardly, you're breaking that, childish self so that you can reach the end goal, which is to be near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right? That's really what this is about. Let me give you some examples. Remember Ali ibn Abi Talib. He was the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and eventually he became his son-in-law. And he got married to Fatima, to Zahra, the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, very young. All right? Very young. They were married at young. They were teenagers at the time. They were teenagers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals, according to some of the mufassirin, in Surah Al-Insan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَصِيرًا. All right? What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us? That there's this person, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ, they give out food. They fed someone. Who did they feed? Miskin, the person who cannot make ends meet. They just can't, no matter how hard they work, no matter how much money they have, they just can't make ends meet. That's the miskin. Wa yatim. Who's the yatim? The orphan. Wa asira, the prisoner. Right? Prisoner. So what we know, what some of the mufassirin say, that this verse was revealed about Ali ibn Abi Talib, radiyallahu anhu. He used to work. He was a young man, 16, 17, not quite 18. He was young. And he used to work at a date farm. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of date trees. He used to go and, cultivate them, help cultivate them. And He used to get paid in dates. So he would have to take the dates home. He might have to sell some of the dates so that he could get other things. He would have to feed his family some of the dates. He would have to feed his animals some of the dates. Now he's on his way. He's walking to go back home with his daily wage of dates. Someone walks up to him and says, I am miskin. I don't have enough, food or money. So Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu gives him 1/3 of his wages. 1/3. So if you have $100, it means that you give someone $33.33, which is very difficult for us. It's hard for us. But Ali ibn Abi Talib, according to some of the mufassirin, this is what he did. He keeps going. He comes across another person. And that person is an orphan. And the orphans, of course, in those days, they're asking, please help us, take care of us. This is what you'll find if you go to Gaza right now. Orphans, many, 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 many orphans. And anyone who can help them, they're going to ask them for help. So Ali ibn Abi Talib, he gave him the second 1/3. So he's given away 2/3 of his daily wage. And he keeps going. He keeps going. And he comes across a prisoner. All right? The Asiyah. And that person asks for some charity, for some sadaqah. He gives him the last 1/3 of his wage. He goes home penniless. We're not talking about a full-grown adult in terms of age. We're talking about somebody your age, 16, 17. We're talking about somebody that young. But he has this sense of heroic generosity to give away all of his wages to people that are not as well off as he is. His whole day's wage. That is the spirit that young people have to learn. Otherwise, you will stay a child for the rest of your life. If you cannot prefer the other person, if it's all about you, what you want, how you want life to be, how you think life should be, you're a child. Because true adults who have true emotional growth, true spiritual growth, they don't act like that. And that's why I'm giving you these examples. And Ali ibn Abi Talib, he was a young man when he did this. He was young. All right? I'm going to give you another situation. This was another young man. And then I'm giving you 2 men. Inshallah, I'm going to try to give you 2 women, depending on how much time we have. We have 10 minutes. Okay, so I'll tell you about a woman, right? And then we'll go from there. Has anybody heard of Rumaysa Salim? She's one of the sahabiyat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She's one of the female companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was married to Abu Talha. Abu Talha and Rumaysa, they had a son. The son passed away. They had a son who was very sick. Now Abu Talha, he wanted to go out on a journey. Right? He's telling his wife, hey, I need to go travel. I need to make money. But he was afraid to leave because the baby was very sick. But Rumaysa was telling him, no, go, leave, go. So he left. While he was gone, the baby died. Rumaysa goes to her neighbors and to her families and says, don't anyone say anything to Abu Talha when he comes back. I want to be the one to tell him. I want to tell him. So Abu Talha comes back and she takes a bundle, like a baby bundle, and puts it in the corner of the house. In those days, they had small houses, smaller than this room. So she takes the bundle. Somebody might come into the house and see the bundle and think, okay, that's the baby over there. She puts the bundle over there. Abu Talha comes in the house and he says, how is the baby? She says, better. She feeds him. She put on makeup And they were together as husband and wife. And then as they're spending time together, Rumaysa begins to talk to her husband, Abu Talha. And she says, can you imagine our neighbor? He said, what about our neighbor? What happened? I went and I gave the neighbor some household utensils. And then after a few days, I went and I began to ask them for my utensils back. And the neighbor began to refuse as if those utensils belonged to them. So Abu Talha says, yeah, no. You were right and they were wrong. It's yours. You can ask for it back. And they're wrong to deny you. So she looks at Abu Talha and she says, this is the situation with your son. Allah gave him to us. And then Allah took him back. We don't complain about that. This is preference for the other. Because most of us, when we're emotionally agitated, we want the other person to know that we're emotionally agitated. Well, you did this, and I'm not going to do that. That's the talk of children, little boys and little girls. Rumaysa, despite her grief, that's not the first thing that she poured onto her husband's head when he comes home from a long journey. She feeds him. She doesn't mention her pain. She adorns herself. She doesn't mention her pain. Hours pass before she tells him what happened. And and that is heroic generosity. So it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. That is fatuwa. This is the rites of passage. If you want to know if a young person is maturing properly, see how well they can prefer the other person, whether it's their parents, whether it's their family members, whether it's, the neighbor, whether it's their intendant who they're going to marry. That's what you look for. All right. You look for, can they prefer the other person? Now, all of that is outwardly. Okay. Outwardly. But inwardly, as you're doing these acts of generosity to people, as you're preferring them, you're holding your tongue, you're not seeking justice from them, right? You are heroically being generous with them. In reality, you are preferring what Allah wants over what you want. In reality, that's what you're doing. Because that verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. Why is Allah saying that? He's mentioning the qualities of people who go to paradise. They go to Jannah. He's saying they give out food despite their love of it, despite their need of it. They're able to prefer the other person. And some of the Mufassirin said this was Ali ibn Abi Talib as a young man. That's how you know that somebody is transitioning from a little boy or a little girl into a grown person. All right? What you're trying to do is you're learning to be humble. You're learning to be humble. You're learning to be modest. You're learning to be modest in front of Allah. Because Rasulullah ﷺ said, to be modest in front of Allah is to even watch your mind and the thoughts that go through it, let alone what you say on your tongue. Right? What you say on your tongue is always an indication of what is actually in your heart. So that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to be loyal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you know the greatest God that has been worshipped besides Allah? Anyone? What is the greatest God that has been worshipped besides Allah? Anyone know? Not you. You're right. You're right. But yeah, mashallah. He gave away the answer. Yes. Right? Allah asked a question in the Quran. أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخِذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Do you see the one that he takes as his God, his whims, his desires? You think that idols is the worst thing that you can worship? No. You think it's your car? No. You think it's your money? No. It's when your lower self tells you to do something and tells you to say something, and you do it and you say it without giving thought. What does Allah want? Because at that moment, you have taken your desire over what Allah has commanded. أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخِذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you seen the one? He takes his desires, what he wants, what he cares about. He doesn't care about the other person. He only cares about how he feels, what he wants. But that's not what Allah commanded. That is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded. And that's how you know. That's what you look for when I say, is this person becoming an adult or not? Can he prefer the other person? Can he look beyond himself? Is everything about him or her? Or are they able to prefer other people on a consistent basis? All right. I think we're almost there. All right. Last point. This is my last point. A way of fixing this. You're young people, mashallah. Tabarakallah alaykum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. Have mercy on all of you. Guide all of you. Right? But this affair begins at looking at your sincerity. Who is your heart oriented towards? Who is your heart oriented? Is it oriented to your nafs? Or is it oriented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can you prefer what Allah wants? Or is it only about you? Okay? Be loyal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't become satisfied with your state. Right? And all of us in here, we have nafs, we have this lower desire, and it tells us to act ugly sometimes, to say ugly things sometimes, we want what we want. And that's all, that's an indication of your state, your spiritual state. And what Futuwa is telling us to do is to rise above that and become true servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which, by the way, is what Ramadan is all about. It's holding all of the appetites still. No eating, no drinking, don't talk too much, and engage in more ibadah so that your spiritual self can grow and you can become a true worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. We're out of time? No, iyyakum. Alhamdulillah. 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 Jazakallah khair. Allahu Akbar.
MashaAllah. Ustad Tabari over here visiting from whereabouts?
Yeah, Moreno Valley.
Moreno Valley, mashallah. So he's coming
Alhamdulillah.
good of the way out here. But alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair.
Alhamdulillah.
Sharing with us your wisdom and your presence and allowing us to truly be adults in the way of adulting. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
There's a table that Ustad Tabari has. Maybe you could.
Yes. So yes, inshallah, when you go out, you'll see a Lamps of Light table, right? So the name of our organization is Lamps of Light. And, I'm a licensed therapist. So I, help people to overcome, stumbling blocks in their mental health, their emotional health, their moods, attitudes, things like that. And our focus with this organization is actually on the youth. We spend most of our time talking to the youth, encouraging the youth, trying to help the youth. And the reason why is because I realize that we are in a time that humanity has never experienced before. Never. There has never been a time where you can encounter every type of kufr, every type of hypocrisy, nifaq, right? On a device that you hold in the palm of your hand. Never happened before. And so many of our youth are bewildered. Our youth, they fall into internet-based addictions. And that's one of the things that we work with. So we go around and we educate the community about how to overcome these things. We educate professionals in our community, community workers, and also families, how to deal with these times. The other thing that we do is we have youth mentors. We have young people, maybe in their early 20s, that walk alongside of people like you, right? When they have issues, they might just need a talking to or somebody to kind of just be kind to them and explain things to them, walk alongside with them. But lastly, if people need professional help, we have 3 licensed professionals, licensed therapists on staff. And one thing I want you to remember, the main thing I want you to remember about Lamps of Light is this. We help Muslims to overcome addictions. All right? That's our main specialization. We help Muslims to overcome addictions. Mainly internet-based addictions. So online gambling, gaming, social media, pornography, shopping, all of these things that nowadays the kids are getting caught up in. And that's one of the things that we help with. So I would appreciate it if you guys stop at the table, take a sticker, maybe take a bag, a Lamps of Light bag, and give us your email and your phone number and your name so that we can send you information, as new programs open up with Lamps of Light, inshallah. I would appreciate that.
Allah bless you.
Ameen, ameen, ya Rab. Ameen, ameen, ameen. Ameen, inshallah.
Inshallah, for next week's and the weeks coming along for Ramadan, we have more programming like this, inshallah. Stay in tune with us at the At-Thohir Youth Group Instagram page. Keep up with the socials, inshallah. I think next week we have calligraphy, inshallah. So that's going to be fun. Jazakallah khair, everyone. And everyone enjoy your breakfast. Allah.